It's incredible what you can learn by reading a few books. Have you ever read a book about the age of the Earth, or wondered, is it exactly what they say it is in your science textbooks? If you've been through the public school system in the last 70 years, you've probably been taught that the Earth is extremely old, either millions or billions of years old now. Back in the 1950s, they started teaching that the Earth was about 1 million years old, and since then, it's just been getting millions or hundreds of millions of years older each year, which is incredible. Now today, scientists say that it's 4.5 billion years old, but is there any evidence to back this up? Until about 100 years ago, pretty much everyone was in consensus that the Earth was less than 10,000 years old. This came from the observable facts of history only being traceable back a few thousand years, as well as the testimonies of the beginning of creation passed down and eventually documented. The Bible is, of course, the most notable of all those sources, and using it we can trace back from Jesus to Adam at the 6th day of creation. If we do that, we get a span of about 4,000 years. Of course, to get from Jesus to us only took about 2,000 years. So if we add those together, we get a total of 6,000 years since the beginning of time to us today. But of course, this isn't the mainstream view. Are there any sources outside the Bible that can verify that this is at all true? Thankfully, yes. Until about 100 years ago, most scientists were creationists, but unfortunately, due to the ungodly views of modern science, they had to split about 100 years ago, and there formed a branch called creation science, and then of course the secular science, which has been pushed in our schools for the last 70 years. Some pretty awesome organizations such as Answers in Genesis and Creation.com have been created to bring the truth to people that's been suppressed for far too long. So go check them out because they have plenty of amazing content, but I'll summarize some of the best arguments here. The first proof that points to a young Earth is archaeological evidence, which has been found all around the world. From the Dead Sea Scrolls to ancient Israel, biblical events have been traced through archaeological digs, and we've found significant evidence that points directly to the biblical accounts tracing throughout history, proving that they weren't just made up stories, they had actual people, actual places, and actual events. Measuring this up to the evolutionary theory, which believes that there are millions of different transitionary fossils which just haven't been found despite the many digs they've been on, the archaeological evidence clearly points to the Earth being young and the biblical account being true. Fossils also point to the creation and worldview. Animals that die naturally are either eaten or decompose naturally. Fossilization requires special circumstances, such as sudden encapsulation in mud to preserve specimens from decay. Creation scientists say that fossils, especially the ones found on mountaintops, are proof of creation because there was a sudden encapsulation of sea creatures and they were deposited on the highest mountains as the flood rose above the highest mountains of the earth. These same creatures have baffled secular scientists for years because they refuse to admit that it could have been the biblical flood that made this happen. Instead, they would rather say, we don't know. However, Christians have known since our faith was born. Polystrate fossils are also amazing evidence of a young Earth. So what are polystrate fossils? They are tree fossils that are found through the layers of the Earth, which scientists say take millions of years to form. But these trees prove that that can't be possible because they would have fallen over, decayed, and decomposed. In order for them to be between the layers of the Earth, it would have had to have been a sudden encapsulation of the trees. This was also witnessed in Mount St. Helens back in the 80s as tons of trees were launched into the nearby Spirit Lake, and within weeks they had formed fossilized layers with the trees standing straight up through the layers. These fossils are also found all around the world, proving that there was a massive flood which caused the dinosaurs to be encapsulated, fossilized, and destroyed the life on the Earth. The layers were not formed over a long period of time, rather they were formed suddenly, quickly, and also really beautifully. The next proof is not so much that the Earth is young, but rather that it's not old, so I guess that would point to it being young. Many people point to rock dating methods as a reliable source of determining the Earth's age. But how reliable is it? Many creation scientists wanted to test these dating methods for themselves, so they decided to send some freshly created volcanic rocks to these dating labs, and they were surprised when they came back with dates of millions of years old despite just recently being formed. There are plenty of examples and proofs that these numbers are just pulled out of a hat. They are completely random, but people are told that they're so reliable, so they just go along with it. The idea of an old Earth is all based on presuppositions and also maybe a little bit of malice because people want evolution to work and to reject God in their hearts. Because rock dating is done by experts and thought to be true, they can get away with just pulling random numbers out of the hat because how do you even prove that they're wrong? So they have free reign to just put whatever number they want on it and then pretend that that validates an old Earth, but it's not a proof at all. Rock dating methods are a complete myth and they don't work for many reasons. So methods such as carbon dating don't work because we don't know the original components of the rock. We may know the decay rate and how much is in there now, but if we don't know what was in there at the beginning, we can't measure how long it's been decaying for. That's the fallacy that's been happening and what's tricked so many people. I know that when I was in high school, my teacher confidently said that carbon dating was the #1 proof that the Earth was old, and unfortunately, it's not a proof, it's actually just the man behind the curtain. But in actuality, there was no wizard there after all, it was all a hologram. And there's no proof there either, it's just a rock. Rocks don't tell you anything. Rocks don't come with labels and they don't give you information about how old the Earth is. All of them are built on assumptions which you cannot know. Historical science and normal science have been mixed too long and they're two completely separate things. Science by the scientific method is something verifiable and repeatable. Historical science does not fall in that. The next proof we have for the Earth being young is the natural properties of the Earth itself, such as the magnetic field. There's a magnetic field that surrounds the Earth and it's growing weaker each year measurably. If we trace it back to about 60,000 years ago, it would have been too strong to support any kind of life. The oldest desert in the world and the Great Barrier Reef are also about 4,000 years old, which is right after the global flood in the Bible ended. That's quite a coincidence, don't you think? The moon is also amazing evidence that we have a young Earth. Each year it gets further and further away from the Earth, and right now it's in a really special zone for eclipses to be possible. Coincidental? I don't think so. Since it's getting further and further each day, if we trace it in reverse to 1,000,000 years ago, the moon would have been rolling around the Earth's surface, destroying life multiple times a day, which is not possible. The next powerful evidence for creation is astronomy. No one has ever seen a star or a planet form or being formed. In fact, it defies natural laws of physics. We see them being destroyed all the time, but where do they come from? Jupiter gives out twice as much energy as it takes in from the sun. If the universe were billions of years old, Jupiter would have gone cold a long time ago. If you're a Bible-believing Christian, you should rest easy, knowing that the world reflects the accuracy of the Bible timeline, even if it's not the popular opinion. In the end, both secular and Christian scientists reveal the same evidence but come to completely different conclusions. Don't compromise your faith to millions or billions of years old. The Bible is extremely clear. In the beginning, God created the universe, and it was on day 6 he created man, which was 6,000 years ago, as confirmed by the historical events leading up to today. So if anyone ever asks you how old the Earth is, you can clearly and boldly testify, not only does the Bible say, but also creation, 6,000 years. Until next time, don't compromise, and God bless.